Cool, let's get started. Good evening. It's September 15th at 7:04 PM. I'll call the meeting of the Milton School Building Committee to order. As we do with each one, do a roll call, just attendance. Carrie Hurley.
Here.
Scott Tereshak, Glenn Hoffman.
Here.
Nathan Hutto. Here. Superintendent Phelan.
Here.
And Mark Loring.
Here.
Tim Lombard.
Present.
Akra Bong.
Present.
And Tom McCarthy.
Here.
All right, perfect. We do have a quorum. Keep an eye on the attendees, make sure. All right. First thing on the agenda is we reserve the first 15 minutes for citizen speak. If you're here and would like to speak, please just raise your hand. We'll call on you. We'll give you 3 minutes, sorry. And please just state your name and your address if you would for the record. And seeing none. All right. Move on. The third thing on our agenda is approval of past minutes. Our last meeting was in July. I do not have the minutes for here, so hence we're going to table this for our next meeting. And then just kind of dive into kind of the meat of everything that we have to discuss. So item 4A, update discussion MSBA module 1. So for everybody on the call and present, I want to make everyone aware. So the school building committee, the district, so Superintendent Phelan, Tom McCarthy, everybody got everything in as of July 30th. So that's hence why we didn't have a meeting in August. So we've been waiting. The next step is MSBA will be holding essentially an enrollment meeting where they take our documentation that they look at the options that we're going to do, present enrollments, and then members of the school building committee, town, the school district will meet with them and basically come to an agreement on what the enrollment number is going to be. Timeline on that right now is the latest they can do it, I think, is October 28th or something like that. So I emailed MSBA today, still no date. So a lot of hurry up and wait right now. So with us, kind of in a holding pattern for, the next month from what it seems. So with that, I'll just kind of open it up. I'm sure some people may have questions or comments or anything like that. So feel free. Keep an eye on the panelists.
You may not be able to answer this. Do you anticipate any change in the enrollment numbers from what we've been dealing with?
So with this is it's the projection that they're going to do for the new project. So if you remember from when we were working with the OPM, they have MSBA has their space template where you populate it with the number at the bottom. Actually, did you work with it? So that number for the enrollment that lays out all the square footages is the number they're going to come up with. So it's not our
It's not an actual.
it's the projection for the options that we're looking at for either an upper middle school or a new elementary school. And essentially all the data that we provided was construction projects ongoing in the town, permits pulled, birth, all the stuff that we've kind of gone over when we're looking over module 1 for all that. So they're essentially assembling all that data along with other things that are there. I know Nick had mentioned MBTA communities because the planning board, if I recall, did as part of their study, an enrollment analysis. It was like 264 students, but that's over the full build out of it, a long time. So, but they're going to weigh all that in.
Do we have a projection of what we think the number should be?
We were using, if I recall correctly, I think it was 700 for the upper middle school. It was 350 and 350 or somewhere around there, like 325 per grade, 650 to 700 for the total upper middle school. And I think the preschool component was like 120. But there was 120 split between half-day programs, so 60 in the morning, 60 in the afternoon. And those are like ballpark off the top of my head numbers, but if we can go back and look at what they are, obviously we can use that when we're comparing what they're going to do.
Yeah, just thinking, how do we negotiate with them once they come up with a number?
I've never dealt with them, so is it a negotiation?
Yeah,
Or is what it is usually.
yeah.
They have a formula they use. Unless they change, which I doubt.
Well, hopefully as part of the meeting, they'll explain the formula.
Yeah,
They'll versus the
absolutely.
data we gave them. And it'll make sense from that explanation, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I'll keep reaching out to them and hopefully try to push it as much as I can, but my understanding was there were a number of districts that they've accepted. They've got all the information from them, and it's basically just a queue of people that they're working through for there, so. Any questions online or comments online? Okay. Megan's on, sorry about that. I think Megan is. Try this. This is Zoom user, so I think that will be Megan. There we go. Megan, is that you, username Zoom user?
Yes.
There we go. All right, cool. Welcome. So in regards to MSBA, that's kind of where we're at right now. So the next phase is they would set that enrollment. After that enrollment is agreed upon, the process would have to go to their board for a vote. So the board meets every other month. So they meet in December. And if we don't get on in December, February is the timeline associated with the 270-day, framework that they give us. So earliest will probably go is December, latest will probably go is February. Yep, Mark.
Is there any advocacy we can do to push to be in December? Like, is there any control we have, or people we can bother to try and get on that earlier timeline?
I don't know. I mean, knowing they're a government agency, I would just say whatever your state reps are, contact them. But outside of that, with the current MSBA, I don't know any other way of doing it. So we'd love to, if you know of any, Mark, I'd love to know.
I'm always happy to bother people, so I'll maybe reach out to state reps and see if they can email anybody.
Appreciate that. Welcome, Tim. Hey. All right. So if no other questions or comments, I mean, like I said, I just want to use tonight to kind of relay this information publicly so we're all on the same page. Next on the agenda, item 4B is school building committee fall town meeting article. So some good news on this. So since we last met, I've gone in front of the Warren Committee, myself and Mark. We presented the article, the reasoning behind it. So as you just saw with MSBA, as I talked about in our previous things, this is a slow process. So as we plotted that out, even when we plotted it out last time, we thought we'd be going in the fall with that. Now, if we're not going to say December or February or something like that, that timelines that I was doing before actually extrapolated on. So with that, we presented it to Warren Committee. They listened to it. So one of the new things the Warren Committee is doing this year too is they have for people in industry, construction or engineering industry, they have subject matter experts. So they rather than sitting down live with the whole Warren Committee and going fresh with everything, letting them absorb it, they allocated 2 to 3 members per warrant article to kind of dive into it to get some feedback. So essentially when the author leaves the room where there's other discussion, they have experts that are like well-versed in it. So I met with Brian McGuire and Elaine Craighead. So we met, went over everything, and there was a lot of discussion. Some just on the overall project, just getting up to speed again on it, you know, because it is a big project. But, you know, as we focus on the timeline, people will acknowledge that, you know, yeah, it would be a problem if we were to keep going forward. So essentially, it went in front of the warrant committee. It was voted, I want to say unanimously, but there was one abstention, so I don't know if that counts as unanimous. But everything else was a yes, so it looks good for us for fall town meeting, so, you know, we're kind of, it was the first warrant article to get approved. So, with that, open up any questions or anything like that.
Could I ask what,
Sure.
what is the article?
The article, so when we did the land swap in 2023, we had, when we passed the land swap over there, we put essentially a reverter clause onto the land. So the swap that we did took a portion of parkland, a portion of conservation land, and then converted it to general municipal land for the school. And we said, if we don't fund a school, not construct, but fund a school by 5 years later, 2028, it would revert back to conservation and parks. So when we did that, we had no anticipation of getting MSBA. And you know, as we've done this project, we've gone on parallel paths. So the path we're on before MSBA, we were going on the project on our own to like funded by the town and do that, knowing that, or with the anticipation there was never a chance getting into MSBA. So we went down that path last summer. We lined up a concept design construction estimate ready to go to a ballot for debt exclusion. The select board didn't put it on there, and that was fine. And then, so what it did is when we went into MSBA now, it basically drawn out that timeline for when we'd be able to get to a vote. Because essentially, as you can see now, we just hit the reset button, you know, we're waiting. So a couple of meetings ago in July, I laid out the committee kind of timelines Nick provided for other MSBA programs that are ongoing and the timelines that took them to do. And we took the starting point of kind of where we're at or where we thought we were at and extrapolated it out. Two of them came right up to 2028, like we might be able to get a vote on a town meeting right before that. But the other two went way beyond it. And then now with the further delay we're seeing now, when I update those graphics for town meeting, probably all four will be beyond there. So for us, it wasn't to resurrect the whole land swap and go through all that fun again. It was mainly there to just acknowledge like this is a longer process now that we're with MSBA, and we don't want to get to a point with MSBA and then all of a sudden reverter clause kicks in and we get no land. So, you know, for us, it kind of made sense to do it. So that's what we're proposing this year. Yep, no problem. Yep, Mark.
I can just give an update on from the school committee side. We took up after the warrant committee vote. We discussed it at school committee and school committee voted unanimously to support the warrant article. We usually take votes related to any of the school building committee articles. So, but unanimous approval at the school committee a few weeks ago.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? On the new business? New business. So let me. Share my screens. So town administrator, so good segue from the land swap. So town administrator had brought up or sent over from MAPC this pathway or corridor is probably a better way to look at it through Milton that they're looking at bike, walk, run connections. And in here, look through a lot of this because I wasn't really looking at this, but what happens is there's a section of the area that they're looking at. Inflection speeds. So should go back to the map. All of these. So this section of Milton, running right down here. The area that we're talking, that they're looking at is essentially Blue Hills Parkway. So if you know where Gow Road comes down, touches Blue Hill Parkway. What they're looking at is reusing or redoing the lanes. So currently right here along Blue Hills Parkway, you have two lanes of traffic, a bike lane and a parking lane. One lane back in this direction. I forget which one is north or south into the page or out of the page. But what they're looking at is taking this configuration that's here now, and they're looking at different options. So for us, I'm making the assumption our school will be on this side. So for these options, looking at, buses right now would flow out, hit the parkway and basically turn towards Mattapan, because there's no breakthrough in the median. So what they're looking at is the first option of essentially just switching parking and biking. So flip flopping them on each side to protect the bikers. And you see that all over Boston. The other one is kind of extending the biking lanes. So on this side, getting basically eliminating a travel lane, putting a parking lane, parking stalls here, and basically extending the bike. Further 4-foot buffer, another bike lane, doesn't look like any parking, not sure. But the most dramatic one, I think, were some of these where they were extending the island in the middle, creating more walking. Others, and then the final one was this one, which was probably the most dramatic, which would extend, basically reduce Blue Hill Parkway down to basically one lane each direction. And this, if this was the decision that was made, for us, would provide a large buffer, leading up to essentially where we see this go. Town administrator Nick Milano sent this to me to kind of share with everybody, so it's on our radar. So as we're going through our design, our process and stuff like that, these are things we're gonna wanna have our architects and traffic engineers start at least getting integrated in as this may progress forward, so. I see Glenn leaning forward, so I know there's.
No, I'm just watching.
There's an alternate 6 too, but it's just adds one lane to this one, I think, yeah.
Yeah,
It's interesting, it says alternatives 5 and 6 would only be implemented south of Pine Tree Brook Trail. Is that where the brook is? So it's,
yeah,
so
so,
it would stay
Yeah,
as it existed?
yeah, let me move that
Let
over.
me see,
So,
Gaia Road is south of
yeah,
Pine Tree Brook, yeah.
yeah, so Gal Road right here, so all that
Yeah.
portion from Can't Have, basically along Pope's Pond. Would be the portion that they're looking at doing this. How that would transition back to, existing there, I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's just a different project for that I heard about, connect along Pine Tree Brook.
Oh, the bike path?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's probably connecting this.
yeah, I know the former town planner, Tim Zawinski, had. Plans, we were looking at the land swap and talking about land and land use and stuff. There was a plan to along the brooks or some of the waterways to create bike paths along there. To basically navigate, go all the way down,
So that would explain why it only goes that far up Blue Hill.
correct?
There's currently a CPA funded feasibility study to connect the full Pine Brook Trail. Pine Tree Brook Trail from beginning to end through Milton, it's like 3.5 miles. I think they're years away from doing anything with
Yeah,
in the original designs, did it foresee what exits out of the school did it imagine?
so.
On Blue Hill Parkway?
Yeah, so you're talking for buses and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Let me, so just so if people are watching this, they don't get confused, so we'll have a map and system. Drop it straight on. So one of the things, when we're looking at Blue Hills Parkway, when we're coming out, the median that's here, I believe this is a historic roadway controlled by MDC, right? So we weren't able to make cuts, or if we did, it would be very significant and cause a lot of reviews. So, and we didn't get anywhere near like diving into what would be for traffic and stuff like that. But if this area from here south was all paved and stuff like that, that would give opportunities for buses. My assumption would be make both directions, which would be ideal, I think, rather than having all the buses go north.
Okay.
How close is the building gonna be to Parkway?
We're minimum, so just to recap. So right now,
It's crazy that.
I coach football, I'm looking at our practice field there with the dirt down the middle.
that's table that discussion.
Oh,
for
yeah.
a different time, Please,
Different meeting.
yes. So roughly, we've got about 300 foot offset from the front of the roadway, from where we're gonna put, where our parcel starts. So essentially back in this area here, but yeah, so there's part of the concessions along with the reverter plans that we did was originally we were using all the conservation land on this side. And then what we're looking at taking is Gow Road and along the boundary of the portion that we're taking here, realigning Gow Road over here. So that takes a portion of the park and a smaller portion of the conservation, merges them and just makes one big parcel.
So Sean, which of those schemes do we think works with our potential school?
I don't know.
Okay, we haven't made that determination yet.
No, like I said, like this just came up, from I didn't really dive into it. I wanted to like just disseminate it to everybody so everybody could start, thinking about it. And then as we bring in architects, engineers, or we do our interviews for them as part of it, we can, you want to gotcha question, that's a good one to ask, how they plan on integrating that, and I can guarantee it, they won't be ready for it, so.
But Sean,
Unless they're watching this meeting and then they'll be ready for it.
you were saying you thought alternatives 5 and 6 with the extended median, the median would be on the high school side of Blue Hill Parkway.
Yeah, and just looking at this,
Yeah.
for me, I would assume.
They're gonna want that up against conservation land.
Yeah, all that.
I was wondering if that would affect our ability, like if that would affect the departure there, if that road would get closed off or something.
Yeah, so, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think the road would get closed off because actually,
it would exit into this median, that's what I was wondering.
one of the, well, I would assume it would extend all the way across. So the key thing to remember about this, and you'll probably remember it from when they created this, that's not a road, it's actually a driveway technically. So Gow Road coming down there is actually a driveway up to the high school technically is what it's known as. So my assumption would be where that comes down and touches Blue Hill Parkway right now, as part of this, it would get extended across. Or at least it would need to.
So are we saying, this is so far down the road, but are we saying out loud that we're considering or not considering, or just leaving it for future discussion about whether or not we can cut that median and be able to have buses and traffic go north and south? Or do we think that that's gonna be too big of an ask?
No, well, I, as part of the project, I'd like to ask for it, definitely.
Yeah.
Anything to mitigate traffic, if it's an additional hurdle, for example, like. Going in front of NBC or whatever the historic commission wants to do, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the traffic that's gonna be generated from an initial layer of buses, I think would warrant. doing it. Yeah, I definitely not saying don't wanna do it. But for me, I wanna get through. The traffic analysis, once we bring on the designers and their traffic engineer. Because we'll have to look at scheduling of the buildings, because high school and the middle school, upper middle school might be different times. So it ideally wouldn't be buses at the exact same time, and how that gets layered in. We'd have to look at that. That was something that we initially started looking at with the traffic engineer. And then when we brought on the new team with Arrow Street and stuff like that. We didn't use them, so. That was a traffic engineer from VHB, friend of mine that I reached out to was, one of their traffic people that. Specifically deals with schools, so,
I dealt with Arrow Street in Belmont.
okay.
They're actually pretty good.
Yeah, I've got a lot of projects, not with their school people, so the team that we're working with, Shanali and Larry and Andrew. They do the school and transportation, and they do a lot of work at the airport with them, and they're phenomenal. Like, they were good. Hopefully, hopefully get them back, so we'll see. Yeah, Mark, sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
No problem. I know we, unfortunately, probably have a lot of time on our hands here with how this project develops, but I think typically state agencies, we see with MSBA are quite slow on all of this. So I think it might even behoove us, even though we don't quite have a design, like I think in any scenario if we're developing on that parcel, regardless of what the program is, a curve cut through that median would be nice. And I think if we could reach out to Mass DOT, if that's the agency or whoever it is, to try and talk to somebody about kind of initial conversation. What is the pathway, right? Like, what are the approvals and the things they will need? So then we can, make sure that is clear within any RFP we end up doing for architectural services through the NSBA. I just think that those are steps you're going to take kind of regardless. I don't necessarily know if right now you need to wait for an OPM or an architect to at least have that for outreach for just so you're to.
Yeah, and I believe the state agency we'd be dealing with is DCRs, not Mass DOT. But there's somebody on the committee I know that can take a look at
Even,
that.
hey, it's Megan, even if it were Mass DOT, all the environmental permits and everything would take us through EEA. So I would start with DCR and DEP.
Okay,
Since it's
Thank you.
technically a parkway.
Sean, is that civil and site engineers outside of the architectural consultants? In other words, they work directly for us, correct?
no, so,
A lot of times they do on schools. They
yeah,
work directly for the owner.
yeah, I don't know if this process with
Okay.
MSBA, I thought it would just be a singular team.
It is everything except whatever reason civil site tends to do.
I thought geotech was us.
Geotech is definitely you.
So we did geotech already.
Okay.
I'll check on that. So you're
I'm
not
just
gonna like
curious.
the delineation from like chapter.
I was just building on what Mark was saying, if there's anything we can do preliminary.
Yeah. Yeah,
Easier if it was an independent contract, independent engineer.
yeah. Well, it will be important because as we set up like scope boundaries of what they're gonna own or where their limits of work are gonna be, we'll probably want to have that defined to
Okay.
extend down.
And you're right, MSBA may have requirements for
Yeah, well, it's,
who who's part of the design team.
yeah, because when we were doing it before, we the goal previously was to do a chapter 30 package for all the horizontal construction and then the 149 stuff for all the vertical.
Yeah.
And do that for essentially a site enabling. That's what I'm hoping we can use at this point to kind of, speed up the process.
Definitely speeds up the process.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be, I'll ask, MSBA about that. We get the geotech, but they may need additional borings too.
Yeah. If it's helpful, I think on a different project I'm working on for my job, I work with DCR and some stuff, so I can try and connect with people I've talked to on that, so there are other people they recommend we have an initial conversation with, that type of.
Okay, and I can reach out to my friend at VHB too, so if you want to do that, Mark, and I'll do it on my end, just, see where we end up with, hopefully the responses are the same.
Maybe we just reach out to the people who produced this report. It might be a good.
Yes.
Spot.
Some, so MAPC, they'd be planning people, not really the technical people that would be in the weeds for, you know, what we need. The other one is we'd have to look at is what their timeline is on that. You know, what I mean, if that's far out and stuff like that beyond what we're doing, then it would almost be, they would have to incorporate whatever we build. You know what I mean? So if we did if we did the median cut to make it two-way.
I
And then
think all we
this
ask for at this point is consideration of what we're doing within their planning.
Yep,
Because ours is gonna take a long time, theirs is gonna take a long time, who knows when they come together.
call it a race.
Yeah,
Yeah. Obviously Nick said that for us, that like they want engagement, I'm assuming, for some of the stuff that they're doing, so. Reach out to them too. Sorry,
When you guys mentioned geotech, are we doing geothermal for?
we'll see. So originally, so we did geotech, mainly just for structural foundation borings to know the subsoils and stuff like that. When we were working with Arrow Street, they promoted a geotech, geothermal HVAC system, mainly due to the rebates and everything that were there. Whether those are still in line with the current administration or if they're gonna expire during that time, that would play into all of it, because essentially. Their analysis when they looked at it was higher front costs, less operation costs over the long term.
Mhm.
So it was money that we'd be fronting up front, but basically making out over the rate of the time, and that's for us made the decision to do it.
Great.
And one of the schools that we actually visited, I think it was Acton, was the one we went to, had a geothermal system, so we're actually able to like walk in and see some of it.
So I just got through with the $295 million project in Belmont. We had geothermal for the whole thing. And it was grade 7 through 12.
Okay, yeah, your project was the one I analyzed when, like,
Yeah.
some of the, just hearing, you know, to go to the committee and started looking at some of the projects that were.
It was a pretty good upfront cost, but the projections were pretty interesting to
Yeah,
operational.
there's a couple, if people wanna dive into it, I think Concord did a real, like, their financial people that were on the school building committee did a really detailed. Finite cost estimate on the operating costs and all that. And almost every one of them that you dive in and, you know, if you've got enough time to watch it. You'll see the like details of it, so knowing it's already been well baked multiple times. I'm fine with it. If we had some weird subsoil thing, like if it was all sand or different types of fill, that wasn't as conductive, I'd be a little more nervous, but. Typically what we saw out there was standard from, at least from the report that we see. Anything else on the Parkway? Doing good, all right, almost there.
No questions like that.
And so, all right. So. Basically, moving on, so future meeting dates, what I was thinking was. Again, just have a touch in next month on October 6th. I think that's a 3-week look ahead of the rhythm that we're trying to sit on. If, for whatever reason, nothing comes up with MSBA or nothing comes out of, you know, a hiccup with town meeting or anything like that, we may just want to cancel it rather than, because, you know, put it this way, if the agenda is gonna be extremely light, text it up, I'll let you know and cancel it, but if you could right now, just kind of keep that as a placeholder. That work? We'll check online. All right. All right. Outside of that, I think the only thing left on the agenda is adjournment. So. Unless anybody has anything else they want to talk about.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Second by Nathan, two. And those school committee members, they want to get out of here, you notice?
We've been texting.
All right, motion's been made and seconded, assume no discussion, so go to a roll call vote, Tim Lombard,
Yes.
Gary Vayner. Yes. Scott Tereschak.
yes.
Glenn Hoffman.
Yes.
Nathan Hutto. Yes. Mark Loring,
Yes.
Akwa Bond,
Yes.
Megan Haggerty,
Yes.
And Sean O'Rourke, yes. Thank you very much. Have a good night.